meeting, we were introduced to CSS, and CSS has to be to style our page the way we want. So I'll go over what we learned during our last session. So let's go over what we learned CSS. Okay, so we went through CSS and we learned that CSS uses rule set to select elements in HTML, then to modify them. Then we looked at the various ways that we can use CSS, and we have the inline CSS where we start the element directly. So that one it's done in the HTML document itself. So in this case, so you could see it, and you use the style attribute in the element. So if you want to use the inline CSS, you use the style attribute. And so if it's a text you want to align, you can use the style attribute in the element itself. Then you add the value to it. So in this case, we are styling the h1 element, and we have the text align, which is what the property. Then we have the center, which is what the value. So this style will align the text welcome to coding ladies in the center of the page. So we can also use it to style images, buttons, and others. But one thing is that if you are using the inline CSS, you would have to style every element, and that will make your work your coding so much. So you would have to build code for all of them, and it's a waste of time. So when you use the inline CSS, so you only target one element, and that is one disadvantage. Then you can also use the internal CSS. So the internal CSS is where it's just like the external one, but in this case, you use the style element in the head tag of the HTML document. And so you use the style element in the HTML head tag. So in the head section, you just define the style elements with the opening and closing tag. Then whatever you want to style or modify will be in between the opening and closing tag. Then you also learn the external CSS where you have to create a different file. You create a different file with the extension .css, and after creating the file, you have to link the file to the HTML document you want to style. Alright, so in this case, you use the link tag. So just as you can see, so use the link tag, then the relevant document, and this is a style sheet. So you specify that this is a style sheet. Then the href will be the URL or the directory of the CSS file. So if the CSS file is in the same directory as the HTML file, you just write the name plus its extension. So this is how you create a style sheet, style sheeting in what we are doing. So let's go through. Then we also went through how to select or how to modify an element, and we said that you would have to use what we call selectors. And so selectors will help you to select the element you want to style or modify. And looking at the syntax here, so the selector, we have the opening and closing curly braces. We also have the property which you want to style, then its corresponding value. Alright, so if it's a color you want to change, you just, the property will be the color, then the value will be the color name or whatever. Alright, so this is the syntax of CSS. Then you also learn that CSS, in selecting the element, you can use various ways of selecting the element to modify. And one is using the element name. So if you want to style an image tag, you just type img here. If it is a div tag, just type the div. If it is h1, like that. So that one, you just write the element name. Or you can also use the id. So we have another attribute for all the elements or tags, which is the id. So you can also use the id to select the element, and that one you start with the hash symbol. So you start with this symbol, then the name or the value of all the id. So if your id was maybe name, just start with the symbol, then name will follow. Or you can also select the element by the class. And so you start with, so you start with the dot, and so just as in the example, so dot, then its value. All right, you also have the universal selector. That one you just use the asterisk sign, and so that one need to select every element, and whatever you write in, you will define, will be applied to all the elements. It will be applied to all the elements unless you start the elements differently. That is when you will see the change of effect. So let's take note. All right, so let's go through how we can, so commenting in CSS. In my screen space behavior, come back. Okay, so let me reopen the document. Let me the presentation again. What did I say? All right, so as we wait for the document to open, let's go through. So if you want to create the file, the CSS file, so in the same directory as you created the index.htm file, so you get the same path you create the file. So you just click on the file, then you name it style or any name you want, then .css. All right, so after you have, so please let's do that. So create the file in the web dev documents. So I want you to create the file in the web dev document. So just click here, then you name it the way you want, but don't forget the extension .css. All right, okay, so I think by now everyone have created it. So let's link it to an HTML document. So I created a new HTML file or document, and So just type ATM, then you click on the 5 so that it will give you the basic structure of the HTML which you will. Alright, you've created the new file, so just name it anyhow. Then let's link it to our ATM file. So you are linking the CSS to the HTML file. So and we have to use the link tag. So if you want to link it to the HTML, so just use a link tag. So use a link tag. So just like this, you can close it. Then you give it the rel attribute, and so the rel attribute of the relevant document. So and the value should be star sheet. The value should be star sheet. So the value should be star sheet. So please take note. The value should be star sheet. Then
Hi, Israel. Hi.
hello.
Yes, please. I'm a little bit confused. After you created the style.css, did you create another one and needed the test HTML, or that one was there a long time ago?
Yeah, that's why I said you can create a different ATM file, and so you can just make it. We want to practice the
Mhm.
CSS with it. So create a new file and name it test.html. So so let's do that. So just create a new
Okay.
file.
So can you? Yes, I will do that. But can you go back on the linking?
Okay, sure. So after you've written all
Okay.
this basic structure with the doctype HTML head and others, so if you want to link the CSS to the HTML, you use the link tag. So use the link tag. So use the link tag, and you use after the link, you can just close it, and inside the link tag, you just define the documents you are linking, and you want to link a star sheet. So it is a star sheet. So that should be the value for the rel. So that should be the value of the rel. Then after the value, uh, you add another attribute in the link, which is the reference. So href. So where the star sheet is located. So href. So you add that as well. And so this is what will contain the CSS file. And so the name and plus the .css. And mine was star.css. So mine was star.css. So please so anyhow you named yours. So inside you just type the name. So I think mine has come. So you can just click on it and it will complete it for you. So star.css. Star.css. You can also add another attribute which is the type. So the type is just since it's a CSS file, so you can just include this one as well. So the type is test/css. So you've been able to link your CSS file to your HTML. Please, I hope you have all done that. Hello, please, are you okay now?
Hi, Israel. Hi. Please, sorry to take you back, but I'm stuck at after you type the style sheet, then the href. I'm stuck at the href before you type the style.css.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so just follow what I've
Uh,
done. So
actually, okay, okay,
yeah,
all
so
right,
just follow
right.
what I've done. Uh-huh. All right, so we've been able to link this. All right, so let's go through the presentation, then we continue. Okay. All right. So let's see if our star sheet is working. So I want to test it working. So just type. All right. So you can just run your. Okay. So let's change this one to styling star sheet or CSS. CS. All right. So you can run your the test.html so that you test if our star sheet is working. So go to view command palette, then you open with live server. All right, so let's open with live server. Okay, so there's nothing in the body, so it's empty. So let's just use an h1 element. So just styling styling our html. All right, so styling our html. So after you've run, so just enter this in the body, then when you are done, go back to the star.css file. And we said that for you to be able to style in HTML, we have selectors, what we call selectors, and one of the selectors is the element name or the tag name. And inside our text file, our element here is h1, and so this is the element. So this will be our selector, and so h1 will be our selector. So you just type the h1, and so the h1, then we have the curly braces. As soon as you type on the opening one, it will
Yeah.
complete for you. Hello.
Fine. Israel,
Hello,
Israel,
please. Yeah, you.
Israel, please, you are going very fast, please.
Okay. All right, but please let's also speed up a little because of the content we want to treat. So let's also speed up a little. Okay. So I said inside the body tag, add an h1 element with the content styling our css. So after you've written this, so go to the open the star.css file, open the star.css file, and what we want to style is what the h1 element. The h1 element is what we want to start. So simply we can select that element by or just using the element name, which is the h1, which is the h1. So after you've so this will be our selector. Then you open the curly braces and close it like this. So when you are done, just press enter. So just press enter so that we will get something clear. Okay, so now we want to start the HTML, the elements in the h1 tag. So you can change the color. So if you want to change the color will be the property name. So the property. So that is what we want to modify. So that will be the property. Then when you press enter, it will complete it for you. And note, after the property, there should be a colon. So there should be a colon. After the property, there should be a colon. Then after the value, after what we add here, there should be what? The semicolon to indicate that we've ended that. So it is very, very important. So you can, in the color, you can just choose any color you want. Let's take red. And so any color you can just write the color yourself. So red, blue, green to work for you. All right. So if the changes if the change is seen in the page, that means that you've been able to link the star sheet successfully in your HTML file. And so if yours is not working, please check the linking again. And so check the linking again. All right. All right. So this is it. So our star sheet is working for us. So I hope you all gotten the same result. Or is anyone facing a challenge? I hope you're okay. Okay, then let's continue. Okay. Now let's go through the slides again. So now you've been able to link your CSS file successfully. Then let's look at how we can comment in our CSS. How we comment in CSS. So how we comment in CSS. So just as you're able to comment in HTML, CSS to have a way of what commenting. And so when you want to comment in CSS, you start with a forward slash and the asterisk, then you end with asterisk and then forward slash. So just as in the image. So whether it is a single line or multi-line, you can what comment it out like this. So let's do that. So let's do that. So we can do that. All right. So let's comment the color property and its value. So we said if you want to comment this, you start with a forward slash, asterisk, then you end with the asterisk and then what forward slash. So please let's see. So now that we've commented it, you could see that the color has changed back to the default color, which is black. So you've been able to comment this. If it's a multi-line, for multi-line, for example, let's take you how. So let's do it for this one. For multi-line, if you want to comment the whole of this, you start with the same way of doing it. Then you end with what? You end with this. So that will also comment. That also comment for you. So this is multi-line, and the first one we did was the single line. So it's just the same way of doing it. Just place the start in the beginning, place the end at the end of what you want to comment, and you will get your effect. All right, so this is how you commenting, and it's very important to comment your code, maybe so that if someone takes your code and is going through them, or if you even want to debug, or there's a problem you want to identify, if you commented your code, you find it easy to debug your code. So that is commenting in CSS. So it's a good practice to comment your code out. All right, now let's go through how we can start test and also layout. So during the HTML session, so you could see that you just wrote some raw code without styling, and your work wasn't beautiful. So today we are going to look at how we can start the test and the layout. And the first thing we want to look at is colors. And so if you want to give a color to the text or the background, or you want to maybe a background color, anything, they are all under colors. So if you should know how to the various ways of uh, modifying your text and backgrounds with color, and you can do that by using the color name. So we are all familiar with the color names already. So you know red, orange, blue, green, all these ones. So this is what the color name. So if you have the color property or the background color property, you can add the value when you know the color name. So yellow, blue, green. So these are some values. And there is another way you can also add colors. So let me talk about the hexadecimal values first. So we have the hexadecimal values, and it's a combination of what? Numbers and what? Letters. So numbers and alphabet. And the number ranges from 0 to 9. 0 to 9. And the alphabet is from A to F. A to F. The numbers is from 0 to 9, and what? And the alphabet is from A to F. So you can mix them as soon as they are in this range. You can mix them up, and you can use, so the standard is 6. It should be 6 digits. 6 digits as this. And if you're using the hexadecimal, you start with this symbol. So you start with this symbol, and then your value will follow. So this one is FF 6 and something. So it means that you can see there's a mixture of what? Alphabet and numbers. So please, let's take note. So you can do this. So 6. So it should be 6. Sometimes you can also use just 3 of them, and you still get this similar result. So 6 of them. So use a 6 of them. So this is another way of what? If you have so this is a color code. If you know the color code, you can use the color code. Then you also have another way of doing it, where you use the RGB values. the R means blue, red, the J means green, and B means blue. So you can use the RGB value. So the RGB value, when you want to use it, you start the value of the property. You start with RGB. You open a bracket. So the first value is for red. The second one is for green, and the third one is for blue. And it's from 0 to 255, 0 to 255. And so each of them should be in this range, 0 to 255, 0 to 255. All right. So any number any number in that range, when you include it, you get a color you want. So you just know how to. You can just Google it, or any color you want. If you want the color code, it will suggest for you. So it's simple to use. Then the next one is the RGBA, which is similar to the RGB values. So the last element, the last element will give a kind of transparency. It will give a kind of transparency, so that you could see what is behind it. So if you want, maybe if you give a background color, and you want to, maybe there's an image before a background color. So there's an image, like two overlapping things. So if you want, if the color is the one overlapping, so if you want to see what is uh, behind it, you can use this one, so that we give a kind of transparency. And the last value is the transparency, the opacity, and it ranges from 0 to 1. 1 means no transparency. 0 means if you set the value to 0, then the color will not, you will not see the effect. But if it is in between, you will see the effect. But if it is 1, you will not see the effect. Okay, so let's take note of that. Then there's also the HSL value, which is the hue, saturation, and lightness. So you can also, an example is this HSL. The first one, the hue, is like the degree, and it's from 0 to 360. So it should be between that value. The saturation and the lightness are percentages, and so over 100%. So you can also, later time, you can search online to understand more on how to use them. All right. So let's go to our editor again. Okay. So let me comment this. Uncomment this. Is there a question? Okay, somebody's on this. So please make sure you can ask. Hello.
Hello, please. Good evening.
Yeah. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, please.
Please, my challenge is about after doing the my only challenge is about after doing the style.css. Where do you get to link it so that you can what do you call whatever effect you do on the CSS you can get it as the main work. That's my only challenge I'm
Okay.
facing right now.
So I said, did you use a link tag?
Yes, please. I have done that.
Wait. So everything is correct as we did, right?
Yes, please. I've done the link
Okay. And make sure
tag.
CSS.
Yes, please. I was going to view, and that was all. I
Okay.
didn't even again.
So the view, I just the last time we downloaded the live server, so we go to file when you go to the top bar, just click to view. Then you go
Yes.
to command palette. So when you go to command palette, if you have downloaded, yes, if you have downloaded the live server already, if it's not the first on the list, you can just search for it, live server. So when you see it's just the one with open with live server, open with live server. So just click on that one. So open with live server. Please, have you seen it?
Yes, please. I've done
Okay,
that.
so when you just click on it and it's open in your browser for you. All right. So when it opens, let me know.
Okay, you let's continue. Maybe I'll work later.
All right, please. All right. So let's test the color.
Hello. Okay,
Hello.
so let's continue.
Okay. So for the colors, so you can have, so this is one, and so this is a color name. You can also use any, you can use the color code or the hexadecimal value. So you start with asterisk or any number at all. So you could say this, so it will give you the color you want. So this is for hexadecimal. You can also use RGB value. So RGB. So you can use the RGB value, and the RGB will take, let's say 255 98. Then mistake to 38. So it's again, if you use the same thing as I did, you get a kind of orange color. So this is it. So any of them can also, if it is RGBA, if you want a kind of opacity, you can add. You see, so you can see if it, for the RGBA, you see when the opacity was 0, there's no, you can't even see the writing. So it will disable it. So if you want to see, the effect, then it's changing this thing. So you can just change it, maybe 0.5. So it should be between 0 and 1. So I've made opacity 0.4, half of the total, so you could see the effect. So you can make it even up to 1. So you can make it 1 and see the effect. If it is 1 2, you see the effect. It's complete. 0.9 will give you another. So it's just like that. Okay, so this is how you use the RGBA value. Okay. All right, so let's continue. We are okay with the colors now, so just add the color. Then we also have the font. If you want to change the font, we also have the font family, like the font type. When you're using Word document, you have the font type. So maybe you want to change it to Times New Roman, Arial, and the rest, Roboto and others. So you can use the font family. And so these are some examples of the font family: sans serif, serif, and the rest, Roboto and others. So you can also do that. Then we have the font style. So the font style is if you want it to be if you want to italize the text, or you want it to be oblique or normal. So that the default value is normal. The default value is normal. Then the font weight. So the font weight can be, so that the default one is normal, and we have the bold. So it will bold in the text for you, and you can even use values for the font weight. So you can also use values for the font weight, and we'll go through that. Then you have the font variant. So if you want it to be small caps and the rest, you can also do that. So the font size too, if you want to change the font size, you want it to be bigger, smaller, and so you can also use the font size. You can use the font size. Okay, so let's go through together. Let me back here. Alright, so let me H2. Okay, let me use a paragraph tag. Font size. So I'm using the paragraph tag. So font size we can change. So this is what the P tag. But you can also give it a class. So this is it. If you want to use the class to style it, so just give it a name, maybe fonts, like this. So if you don't want to use the tag name, you can use the font, the class value. So I want to use this one. So this is font inside the style.css. So this is what for fonts. So and for class, you start with the dot and the name will come. So dot and this, and so then just open it. Similar. All right. So we want to apply the font. We can increase the font size. So just type font size. Then, and so you can see there are many options. The font size, there are many options. Explain. All right. Okay, so there are many options. You can make it, can be a number 20 pixels. You can change the font size. You can see. Okay, let me change it to about 50 pixels. PS 50px, which will change. So you can see. You can use either small or so another. You have, so these are some values. So small, smaller, extra small, extra small. You can use large, larger, extra large, extra large. So see the extra large. So this is the effect of the extra large. So any of it is cool. So I'm using 50 pixels. Then you can change the font weight. The font weight. So the font weight. So the font weight, you can give it a value. So these are some values: 100, 200, 300, bold, bolder, lighter, normal. You can also calculate. You can also use the inherit, initial, and the rest. So if it is just bold, you want just type bold, and it will change the font weight for you. So you could see that the effect has been seen. All right. So this is what font weight. You can have a font family. So let's use the font family. So the font family is maybe one Times New Romance and the rest. So let's use Roboto. Okay, let me use. So I think there's a suggestion here. Let me use Area. So you can see that changes. It has changes for you. So you can use any of them. You can use more of them. Sometimes the browser may not have that font family, so you can just use more of them so that the ones that the browser have will be displayed. Alright, so you can use more of them for the font family. Then you can also font style. You can use the font style, and either you want italic, you want to italize it, So you can see, so this is the effect of using the font style italic, or you can use the oblique. So you can use this similar thing. All right, the font variant. You can also use a font variant, maybe small caps. Okay, let's see. Small caps. So it change the rest to capital letters for you. So this is the effect of it. So this is some ways of styling the font of a text, and so you can go through that yourself. These are simple. Okay, then we have the for styling text, and so if you want to style the text, you can align the text. You can change the decoration, whether you want to underline it. You can transform the text to uppercase, lowercase. You can capitalize or just capitalize the first letter. You can also change the index. You can indentation of the text. You can change it. You can space out the characters. So you can space out the characters. You can also change the height of the line. Then each word, you can also space out the words using word spacing. You can also give it a shadow. And so these are some properties that will help you um, uh, modify your text. So let's go through that as well. All right. Okay. So let me add more. Let me add more of this. So let's take text format. Okay, let me see text format. Okay, and let me change the class name to test. So you can change your class name to test. So you can add a Peter. You can change it to test. And then restart this. All right, so we just go to the CSS again. Below this one, you just select it using the class name, just as we did for before. Then we want to apply the various text formatting. So you can do text align. So text align. So the text align takes values like center and justify, or you can align left, you can align right, can yes align to the start and others. So if you choose center, you could see the effect. So initially it was align left, so align left, and we've centralized it. So you can also use right, text align right, and you can see effect. And so if you want to position the text, you can use any of these. So let me use. You can also do left. So left will take the initial one, or justify. Let me add. More. Let me add empty text. So that's all right. Let me give it a class name. Okay, let me give it a text. Okay. Now, all right. So I can align this to the right, and you see the effect. So this is it. So the effect. It has aligned it for you to the right. You can use a justify. To justify, we'll use the space, the entire space. So it will space the thing for you so that it will cover every width. So you could see. Sometimes if you want to style this way, you can do this. All right. Then you can also space out. You can space out each letter, each character. So you can space out each character, and you can use the okay. So let's use the text decoration. So text decoration. And so text decoration is if you want to underline it, so you can use. So there are various values. Either you want a dash, so it will align it for you this way. I think let me refresh this one. Solid. Go back. The slides. Okay, so let me add this on PX Solid Black. Why is the text description not working? Okay, let's do text transform. Text transform. So capitalize. So each word has been capitalized. Okay, can use uppercase, which will change everything to up letters for you. You can use lowercase. So you can use lowercase and any of them you want. Okay. Then letter spacing. So you can space out each character. And so you can use maybe 5 pixels. And so you could see the effect. And so you can use 5 pixels. So the pixels is just a length. So it's a symbol of a length. And so the px is a symbol of a length. You can change it to centimeters. So 5 centimeters is too much. So let's make it 1 centimeters. So you could see the effect. But when you use the pixels, I think it's cool. So you can change it this way. You can also word spacing. So you can also space out the words in it. So let me clean this one. Let me add 10 pixels. And so I've spaced each word by 10 pixels. So you can also do that. So these are some basic way of what formatting your text. And so you can just go through them while you are using or you are coding. Okay. Then you can add a text shadow. You can add a shadow. So let's add a shadow text. So let's add a shadow. Okay, so let's add a shadow. Okay, let's add let me add an h3 tag and let me name it shadow. So shadow. Okay, so this is it. So let's add a shadow to it. So the shadow, let's add a shadow. So I'll select the elements. So I use h3, so I'll just select straight using h3. Okay. So test shadow. Alright, so I want to add a test shadow to this. I'm coming in. Let me comment this out so that I can see. So shadow. Okay, so it will take a value, a weight. It will take a weight for the horizontal and the vertical. So you could see. So it has added a shadow. You can change the shadow color. The default color is black, so you can change it to maybe red or any color you want. So you could see. You can add a blur. You can also blur it. So adding a third value before the color. So you can, if you want to change the shadow. So this first one is for the horizontal, and this one is for the vertical, and this third one is for the blur. So you can blur it depending on how you want it. The last one will be your color. You can choose any color at all, and it will change for you. Alright, you can use one, depending how you want to position it. Okay, so this is all. Adding a shadow to your text. Okay, so you define the horizontal way, the vertical. If you want to add a blur, you can blur it, add another value, then the color will also follow. Alright, so we are done with text. We will do more as we practice. Now let's come to the background. So sometimes you want to add a background to you want to add a background. Whether the background color, whether an image. So you can also add a background image or a background color. And so you can also position it well. So you can just use the property background color, background image. If you want the image to repeat, so you can use any of these, repeat on the y-axis or repeat on the x-axis, or there should be no repeat and there shouldn't be repeat. You can also position the background, so whether to the left, to the right, to the left top, or you can also position it. You can also add an attachment, whether the background should be it should scroll or not, whether it should be fake, scroll, or initial. Okay, there you can also use the shortcut or the shorthand property, just the background. Then you define the background color, the background image, then the rest will follow. Background repeat, background attachment, and position. Alright, so let's go through that as well. So you want to add a background. Alright, for this one, I'll create a new file. I'll create a new file. Name it background. So you can create a new HTML file. I'll create a new HTML file. So name it background HTML. You can create a different style sheet for it, but I want to use the same style sheet for it. So you just go back to the test.html, then you copy the link, this one, copy this one and paste it inside this. So html, then you paste this one here so that you don't create a different style sheet for it. If you want to create a different style sheet, you can do it. If you want to create a different style sheet, you can do it. And let's run this. Let's run this using command palette. Alright, so I'll open this on mine. It has opened. Now we want to add a background color. So but I want to add it to a div tag, maybe a container. Maybe you have a container that you want to add a background color or an image. So let's use a div tag. So you want to add a div tag, and we'll start this div by adding a background color. So let's go to CSS again. Now I'll comment. So I want to add a comment and just background styling. So I'll just add a comment so that I'll write everything below it, so that when you see, you can just know that this is for background. All right. So the element we created is what the div, and this is what we want to start. We want to give it a background, and you can see that there was no content. There's no content or in the div element. So you can just add any element. So let's add any element at all. So you can add a paragraph, add one paragraph to it, and then hello, Miss, with your hand is up. Please, Miss Roots, you can. Your hand is up, please. So, do you need any clarification somewhere? Hello. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so I create a new file and named it .html. So you want to add background color. So you want to add a background color. So you can just inside the braces, you can just add, as soon as you start typing background, it will bring you all the suggestions. So here you want a background color. So you can choose any background color at all. Let me use tomato. So you just add a background. So you just add a background. Okay. So you let me so you can add a background, but let me add a height. Okay, it's okay. The height is okay. So now we have the background color to be tomato. All right. And you can also choose to add a background image. So you can also add a background image. So it means that the image will be below the text. That's the background color. So you want to add a background image, and you start with the URL. So the URL will contain the link to the image or the source where you can pick the image from. Just as we're adding image in CSS, so in HTML, in CSS, if you want to add a background image, so you just use the value, you start the value with URL, then you open your bracket, then you enter the image URL. So in this case, my image is in the image folder. Alright, so just type dot then slash, then the image folder will come. So this is my image folder. Then all the images in it to show up. So maybe you can choose any of them. Okay, I think this is not that clear. 3. Let me choose image 3. Okay, so you can see that there's an image. So there's an image. Added an image, you can see there's an image. Alright. When you give a height, let me give it a height of, let's take 50% of the page. So let's take a height of 50%. Oh, no, 50%, not pixels. So 50%. Okay, to 200 pixels. So this is it. So I just change the height to 200 pixels so that you can see the image well. So you can add a background image. You can add a background image. And if you want the image to repeat, so let's take background repeat. Background repeat. So you can add repeat on the x-axis. Background repeat. So sometimes the background. So you can see, look at this. So when I set the background repeat to repeat on the x-axis, so this is the first image, and the same image is continuing. So you can see from here. And this is the first image. So when you use the background repeat, I use the background repeat on the x-axis like this. Also change it y-axis. It depends on the image size. So if the repeat will be seen, it depends on the image size and the screen or the page. So it's on the y-axis, so you can repeat on the y-axis. Okay, so because of the image size, you will not see the effect of the repeats on the y-axis, but the x-axis showing. You can also choose no repeat, and so no repeat, no repeat, so that the same image will be stretched for you to cover all the parts. Right. So then, which property? We can also add background position. Background position. So you can add a background position. So maybe sometimes you want that to be on one side of the container. The image should also be one side of the container. That is where you can use the background position. So you can use the background so that the text will be at one side and the image will be on the other side. So look at the background position. Background position. Okay, so let's say I want it to be on the top right. So the top right. Okay, so wait. Okay, so it's because of the container. Let me change the height. All right, so you can add, you can define your position, how you want it to be. So the part you want to show will not come. So when you play the image well, yeah, you can see the effect well. All right, then now if you want to combine all of them instead of separately using the background color, background image, background repeat, you can use just the background to add whatever you want to add about the background without doing it separately. So now you can just use background. So you can just use the background property. Then you define if you want to add a background color. So maybe you can add the background color. And so you can see the effect. If you want to add an image, just leave a space, then the image will follow. So the image will follow. All right, so you can pick your image, the same URL. Okay, then I use image dot jpg. Okay, so let me use image 1. Okay, you can see the effect. Okay, let me use the image 5. Okay, so the image 5 has shown, and so you can see it. Okay, and if you want it to be repeated, maybe no repeat, so you can choose no repeat. If you want it to be fixed, you can make it fixed, and the rest. So you can also use the background property alone without using it singularly. All right, then we also have borders. If you want to add a border to your container, so you can add a border to the container or the layout. So you can add the border style, you can add the border width, border color, border radius, and the rest. And so the border style is it will specify the which kind of the border to display. So if you want it to be solid, dotted, dashed, hidden, double, you can use the border style with such values. Then the border weight will define the weight of all the borders. So if you want the height to or the weight to be bigger, you specify the weight. Then the border color, so the color you want for the border, you can define that as well. Then there are other properties too that you can set for the borders. So if you can set only for the top border, the bottom border, right border, so you can set for any of them singularly. So you can also set for that. So border right color, border top weight, border top color, all the rest. You can also give it a border radius. So the border radius will add a rounded borders. So it will make the edges round. It will make the edges round. So you can also include borders in your work. All right, so let's add some few borders, border property to our container. So let me use this one. I'll add another div. So let me add another div. And let me add a content of, so this is a border. So this is a border. Then I'll class. So I'll add a class of border to it. Because I start this using the div property, you see that the effect, so the same styling has what affected the other div. So this is when you use the div, so any other div will be start the same way. So take note of that. But I'll comment this out so that we can add our border styling. So I'm selecting the element using the class name. So the class is border. All right, so we can, so the border will is just so the border is just what is around the container. All right, so you can give a border of, weight. You can give a border weight if you don't want, if you want to do it singularly. You can give a border weight of, let's say, 3 pixels. You can give a border. Then you can give a border color. Let's add a border color of, I like tomato, so I'm using the tomato. All right, so the reason why you are not seeing a border around this container is because you have not defined the border style. So the border style is very important. And so if there's no border style, you will not see the effect. So anytime you are adding a border and you want the effect to be seen, you have to add a border style. Alright, so let's add a border style. Okay, and maybe you can add a dash. So you can see, and so this is the effect for the border. So I use a border of weight 3 pixels. You can change it to any weight you want. So you can increase it, you can reduce it. So you can just change it to anyhow you want it. All right, and the color too, you can change it. You can VS Code will give you the option to choose the color from this. So as soon as you place your if this one, you can select any color you want here. Then it will change the value for you. So I think you can also make good use of that. All right. So let me change my color back to tomato. Okay. So and the value for the style, you can use solid. So the solid is, there's no breaking, and so you have to, that one you have to define it. You can also make it dotted. You can also make it dotted and see the effect. You can also make it double. So you can see. So this is what adding borders to a container or an element. Adding borders to an element. Then if you don't want to, let me add another one. Let me add another container so that we'll start that separately. So maybe border, second border, number 2. So let me add a break. Okay, so let me start that one. So I've added another container, and the class name is border 2. So that one I want to style. If you want to style all of them at once, you can just use the property border, and the property border will contain the weight, the style, and the color. And so you can choose maybe 5 pixels. Then the style name can come. So maybe you want to use a solid. So you can see there's no, I didn't add any color, but so that means that the default color is black. the default color black. That is why you're seeing the black color is black. And so you can change the color yourself to maybe green. So you can see you can do that as well. So this is defining everything with one property without going through all these three. So you can see that you have to write plenty for the same effect. But when you just use this one, just one line, you are done. So you can use this one instead of defining it separately. All right. Then you can also style each border. We have the top border, the right border, bottom, and the left. You can also start that separately. You can also start each of them. So border 3, I want to start that separately. Please, if you have any question, let me know. If you have any question, let me know. So border 3. Let me add a kind of, okay, let me go back. Let me add a break to this so that it won't. Okay, so you can choose to start the top differently. So that one is a border top. You can add a border top alone. So border, border top. So the border top, you can still use a similar idea. So maybe 2-3 pixels, ash, maybe blue, and start the top. So you can see, so you only added, so you added for the top border. So you can use the border top. You can also choose to do okay. I thought you guys are not here. I'm not hearing from you. You can also, let me add, you can also style each of the side separately. And so let me add a border button. So border button, you can also add a border button. And see, you can see the effect, right? Yes. So let me change the color to orange. Okay. So you can see. So you can see for yourself. Okay, so this is, you can also start the left side separately. You can also start the left side separately. Left side separately. Let me make it light green. Okay, so let me make it light green. So this is it. Let's start the right side separately. The right side separately. Let me change it to solid. Okay, so let me change this to pink. Okay, it should be right. All right. So this is adding borders. And so adding borders to an element. So you can add border to an element. Choose to align the content center, maybe text align center. So you can, so anyhow you want to start it. So it has added some borders around it. So this is some few things about borders. Then we can also add a margin. So a margin will create a space around the element, so outside the border. So if you want to a space around the element, then you have to use for the margin. So margin. So see. Let's see how the margin works. The margin works. Okay, so if you want to add a margin, so I'm going to use same. Okay, let me create a different div. So div class, let's take margin. Okay, so I'm giving it a class of margin. All right, then let's go to the CSS. So I gave it a class of margin, right? Yes, so just dot, then the margin, you open it. So let me comment out, make it margin. So margin. All right. For me to make it simple, let me comment the previous code that I wrote so that we can see the effect. So this is a margin. So let me style it. I want to give it a background color first. I want to give it a background color. So background color, say tomato. Okay, so I've given a background color of tomato, but it's not displaying because the div has no content. So that's why you will not see the effect. So but if we define a height, then you see the effect. So I want to define a height of, let's say, 200 pixels and 200 pixels. So you can see when I gave it a height, it shows even without any content. So if there's no content, you will not, if you give it a background, you will not see the effect if there's no height as well. So if you want to see the effect, you add a height. Okay, now we want to give it a margin. We want to apply the margin properties to this. Okay, so we said the margin creates a space around this outside the border. So this is where it starts from. So this is the whole width of the container. Initially, the page itself gives a margin. If you don't like this margin, you can set this one off. So maybe you could that one, unless you can use the universal selector. So let me use the universal selector, which is the asterisk sign, so that we set every margin 0. So margin to be 0. So if you don't want the margin to be seen, the one that appears, or the one that have been applied default, you use the universal selector to set it to 0. Okay, now since we want to apply the margin, I want you to see the effect. Okay, so you can add a margin. So we have the property margin, then you to take a value. So it can be a percentage or any value with any length, or so either with inches, centimeters, and the rest. You can use that. But I want to set a margin of 20 pixels. So 20 pixels. So you see, so when I set margin 20 pixels, it has created a kind of space around the object. It has created a space around the object, so you can see the effects. So this one, so when you are defining the margin, you can see this is just one value, and so this will affect both the top margin, the right margin, the bottom margin, and the left margin. So please take note, if the value is just one, it will affect the top, the right, the bottom, and what? The left. But if it is 2, let's say I've added, you can define multiple of them up to 4. So this is for 2. This is 2. So the first one represents the top and the bottom. We are not, you can't really see because the background, because of the background. But you can see that there's the margin from this to this is bigger than what is from here to the right side, the left side. So it has given a margin of 20 pixels to this. Let me increase that to 50 so that you see what I'm saying. So you can see that it has increased this margin from top to the element. So it has 50. And similarly, from bottom to the element, there's also a 50 pixels margin. When you use 2 of these, the first one is for top and bottom, and the next one becomes what? The left and the right. So you can see the left has the same margin as well the right. So that is the 10 pixels. I can change it to maybe 100. So you see, I changed it to 100 pixels and see the effect. So it means you can see that from left and right, the margins are the same. So let's take note. And you can also declare, let me use a 30. The third item, maybe you can set for 20 pixels. So in this case, when you set it this way, this is what for the 50 pixels is for the top, the 30 pixels is for left and right, then the 20 pixels for the bottom. So the top is for the 50 the 50 pixels is for the top, the 30 is for the left and right, then 20 pixels is what for the bottom. So please take note of that. And if you add the last one, which the last one, you can add the last one. So when they are all for the 50 pixels here will represent that of the top, the 30 pixels for the right, the 20 pixels for the bottom, and the 60 pixels for the left. So top right, bottom left. So top right, bottom. That is how it goes. Top right, bottom left. Top right, bottom left. Okay. Alright, so if you don't want to do all of them at once, you can do it one by one. So you can do for margin top, you can margin top 50 pixels and see the effect. Or if it is for margin left, so margin left, I want to add a 20 pixels. So you can see, you can add one by one if you don't want to do all of them at once. But when you do it all at once, it saves space. You don't have to write plenty. Okay, so this is for margin, and you also have what we call padding. So you can, I will share the slides so you can go through the slides later. Then you also have padding. So padding works similar to margin. So it works similar to margin, but that one, it creates a space inside the container. So just after the borders. So the space, instead of being outside, will rather be inside. All right. So this is for padding, and it's the same. It works the same as the margin. but the margin is for outside and the padding is for the inside. So let's go through that as well. Time is almost up. Alright, so I'm going to save a container for that. I'm using the same container for okay. So let me add the content. I want to add a content. Let me add a paragraph. So let me add a paragraph so that you see what I'm saying. So let's all see. You can see that the text is at the edge of the container. Alright, so once you start is using the padding so that you create space inside the container. So we use the padding property. So use a padding property. So padding also works the same. So when you use just one value, it will affect all sides. So let me add 10 pixels. So you can see the effect. For the margin, you could see that when we use the margin, there was some space, a white space was created before the background. But with the padding, it maintained the container, by just that it created some space before the content. So the content, there was some space created around the content, but the container itself is untouched. So this is how the padding works. So if you want to leave some space before, if you don't want the text to be closer to the edge, you just give it some padding. So you can give a padding top. You can do that for padding top. Okay, let me add a padding. Let me change it to padding top. So padding top. So maybe 60 pixels. So you see the effect. So when I added a padding top, there's a big space before what content from the top. So you can do that. So anyway, you can give a padding right, padding bottom. You can give a padding bottom and the rest. Okay, so just the same, you can give all the four. The first one will be for top. The next one, if it's for the next one will be for right, bottom, then what left. So this is right, bottom, right, top, right, bottom, left, top, right, bottom, left. So take note. So you can add some padding to the container. Okay. Is there any question?
Hi, Israel.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry, I went off a little bit. What exactly is a container?
Like a container. Okay, so a container is just something that holds other elements, right? So for example, the div it serves as a container. So you can use it to divide the pages. So it holds other elements. It holds other elements. So it's a container. All right.
Oh,
You're welcome.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so we are done with adding as well. Then the next thing we want to look at is height. So you can also specify the height and weight of every element, whether it's paragraph, height, whether it's for paragraph, heading, div, section, nav. You can give it a height. So I think we've used the height before. You also use the weight before, so you can set the weight, you can set the height, and we have the maximum weight, so max weight. So when you set the maximum weight, it the for the container or for the element, it will exceed. So all other parts will either be hidden overflow. So for that is for maximum weight. Then you also have the maximum height. You also have the minimum weight. If you want to set a minimum weight, you can set a minimum weight. You can set a minimum height. So you can use this in your styling. So let's see. So sometimes you want to give an image a height and weight, you can do that. So let's try that one as well. So let's try that one as well. Okay, so let me use the same uh, container here. Okay, 11,000. Uh, okay, let me use the same thing. So in this case, I've already given a height. You can choose to give the height can be in percentages, in centimeters, in pixels, and others. So when I set the height to maybe about 50%, see the effect. So you can set it to 50%, and it will take half of the page's height. So you can also set it to 40% and how you want it. Uh, you can use pixels or centimeters, maybe 300 pixels. It will set the height for you, so you can see this. So 300 pixels is very big. So maybe you can set 50. You can set for 150. Okay. Then you can set a weight. Let's say 100 pixels. So you can see how the weight have affected the content. The content is like the container, so you've seen the effect already. So if you set a weight like this, you can some of the content will overflow. So this is a weight. You can set a weight. You can set a minimum weight as well. So for this, you can set a height and maybe a maximum height. Okay, let me set a maximum height. Let's take maximum height for maybe 100 pixels. So you can see, although the height is 150, I've set the maximum height to 100 pixels. So it means that the content can only take 100 pixels of the height. So it will have an effect on it. And so if the maximum height is less than the height itself, if you see that, it will affect it. The same way you can also set a minimum height and maximum weight. So let's set a minimum weight. So a minimum weight, maybe you can set a minimum weight of 300 pixels. But you can see the minimum weight. The minimum weight, though I've set the weight toward 100 pixels, but the minimum weight says it should be 300 pixels. So it means that it overrule the weight. So when you set a minimum weight and there is a weight, if the minimum weight is bigger than the weight itself, it will overrule it. And so it means this is what the page will use the minimum weight. The minimum weight. Okay. Okay. So this is height and weight in CSS. So you can see any container, any element, you can add a height and weight for it. Okay. So when you're building a navigation bar, you can do that. So maybe in a height, a weight, and the rest. Then the next thing we want to look at is the box model. The box model. Okay, so we've been styling the border, the
Hi,
margin.
Israel.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, please, can you speak?
Yeah. I wanted to find out concerning the height and the height and
Okay.
the width. Um, does it apply to the text that is on the live server at the moment, or when?
Hello.
Yeah, Israel, can you hear me?
I didn't hear the last part, so you come again.
Okay, I'm saying that with the max weight max weight and then the height, does it apply to whatever you've highlighted on the live server or any other thing you add to it? It applies to all.
Okay, I said I was styling the div that we were already using. So this was what I was styling. So this div. So it doesn't apply to everything, but it's only for this container, this div. Uh, so this is what was applied. So every content is in will be affected. So it has a content paragraph, the p tag, the p element. So if the weight or the height of the container or the div changes, it will affect the display of what the other elements in the container. Is that what we get me?
Yeah, so if you add another paragraph, you have to change the width and length for it as well, or it affects
Yeah,
that
if
one
if
too
you
as
already
well.
set a weight or a height, especially if you set a height for it and you add more content, that means you would have to adjust your height again. So most times we don't set the
Mhm.
height. So if you know you have more content you add, so you add another paragraph, it couldn't contain everything. So if you add more content to it and the height is fixed, if the
Okay,
height is
all right,
fixed, it will
thank you.
affect it. And so if you don't want height to be affected, all that you have to do is that don't add any height to what do not don't add any height so that it will automatically cut every content. Uh, 10 parts.
Okay, all right, okay, sure.
All right, so let's look at the box model. Then I think we will end. So we have so just as we were doing, we have been adding margin, border, padding to our elements. And so we have something we call the box model, and it's just the layout of the elements. So just the layout of the element, and it's like a box. Just as we can see, it's just like a box. And every element we have some margin, a border, a padding, and all the content. So the div element that we're using. So you can see when I styled it with a background color, you saw it. So it has a margin. Then when we added the margin, you saw the effect. When we added the border and the rest padding, you also saw the effect. Then it has some what content. So this is what all about what the box model. So the box model will have a content, will have a padding, border, and what margin. Uh, then if you want to know the total height and weight of the element, we don't include the margin because the margin is outside the border of what the element. So the weight or the height of the element always end at what the border. And so it always end at the border. So if you want to calculate the height, the weight of an element, you add the weight. So if it is for weight, you add the weight. You have to add if there's a padding for the left and right, you have to add them. And if there's a border, the border, you have to add a width to it. So when you add a width to it, you would have to also add it to it. So in case your weight was 200 pixels, you have a border of 10 pixels both left and right. So that would mean that the padding, if you have the padding of 10 on left and right, you are going to get 220. If the border weight was 5, that the two will be 10, and that will be 230 for the total weight of the elements. And so this is how the box model works. The same way for the height. When you define your height, there's a padding. If you have a padding, you have a bottom padding, and they also have borders. You add all of them, then you get what the height of what the element. So that is it. And one thing is that if you set a weight for um if you set if you define a fixed weight for it, and maybe you you've added all these, you've added some padding and the rest, and you could see that it will take it will try to take its weight, and the content would have to be in a scroll, so you have to scroll to view all content. So whenever you are adding borders and padding, you have to specify the box size to border box, and so that even if you add a margin to it, it will automatically subtract, so that it won't add up to what the total weight or height of the element. So let's take something like this. You can see for my page, there are some scroll bars over here. So for the whole weight of the div tag with the background, the tomato background, there is an overflow. So there is a scroll bar, because it's trying to take its total weight, and so its total weight. And so see, when you are styling the border and the margins, so you have to add a box sizing, so that it will serve as well. It will take only the visible container. So take only the visible container. So let's take let me remove the weight. I want to see if the content will be, was there a height of the height. Oh wait, okay, let me see. Remove it. Okay, so let me do something. Let me add some margin, and let's see the effect. So let's say a margin of 20 pixels. So automatically, since I didn't add any weight to the box size, and so it should be a border box, it will automatically align, so to take the visible space, without uh, making other item scroll. So let's take that as well. Alright, so that's how the box model works. So it's just, you see the weight, the height of the element that you are using. Okay, so because of our time, we can't continue again. So we'll end here today. Then we continue the rest of the section on Friday. Okay, so thank you all for joining. If you have a question, or you need some clarification, let me know before we end the class. All right, so thank you all for joining, and have a good evening and a good night. So we meet on Friday to continue. All right, thank you.
Thank you.